Okay, just picture this for a second. You create a massive scam based on $1 stocks. You make millions and millions of dollars, and you only end up serving 22 months in jail. And then, as if that's not crazy enough, Hollywood turns your life of crime into a blockbuster movie. Well, this isn't some made-up story. This is the very real story of Jordan Belfort, the man who scammed America and then got rich all over again, telling everybody exactly how he did it.
And this quote right here, from the man himself, really gets to the absolute heart of it. It's his justification for everything. It frames this entire unbelievable story, and it kind of forces us to ask, how on earth did he convince so many people? And maybe more importantly, why do we still find characters like him so fascinating?
You know, to really understand the wolf, you've got to go all the way back to the beginning. We're talking Bayside, Queens, a working-class neighborhood where a young Jordan Belfort had zero interest in modest dreams. Nope, he just wanted to get rich.
And he started early, really early. By the time he was 16, while most of us were just trying to get a driver's license, Belfort was running a summer business selling Italian ices on the beach. And he wasn't just selling them, he was crushing it. So much so that he made a cool $20,000. Now, this wasn't just pocket money. This was his first real taste of what was possible.
So, what do you do with that kind of ambition? Well, apparently you enroll in dental school. But on the very first day, the dean gets up, gives a speech, and says this. For Belfort, that was all he needed to hear. He wasn't there to clean teeth. He was there to make a fortune. He literally stood up, nodded, and walked right out the door. The path was wrong, and he knew it instantly.
So his next venture was, let's just say, chaotic. It was a door-to-door meat and seafood business, and it was a total logistical nightmare. We're talking melting steaks, unpaid invoices. It went bankrupt fast. But in that spectacular failure, Belfort discovered his true talent, his superpower. He realized it didn't even matter if the product was good. He could sell absolutely anything to anyone. With this newfound confidence, he heads straight for Wall Street. Lands a job at a legitimate firm, gets his first taste of real money, of real greed. But then, bam! The market crashes on Black Monday in 1987, and just like that, he's fired. For most people, this would be a total disaster, but for Belfort, it turned out to be the best thing that ever could have happened to him. It pushed him right toward his real opportunity.
So fired and looking for his next angle, Belfort stumbles upon a corner of the financial world that was basically the Wild West, completely unregulated and unbelievably lucrative. And this is where the legend of the Wolf of Wall Street truly begins. He found penny stocks, the kind of pink sheet garbage that no serious broker would ever touch, but they had one magic number, 50%. On legit Wall Street, commissions were these tiny fractions of a percent. In this world, you could make a 50% commission on every single sale. The financial incentive was just astronomical.
So in 1989, he and his partner Danny Poresh founded Stratton Oakmont. The name sounds so prestigious, doesn't it? Like it has a 100-year legacy with ivy-covered walls and leather-bound books. The reality? It was a boiler room in a strip mall. We're talking flickering lights and mismatched desks. The only thing prestigious about it was the name on the door.
And just look at who he hired. Not finance grads from fancy schools. Oh no. He recruited bartenders, college dropouts, local hustlers. He didn't want experience, he wanted hunger. He then trained them with his own invention, the straight-line persuasion method, a kind of psychological pressure cooker designed to just bulldoze any hesitation and march a prospect from hello to where do I send the check in one single, unbroken line. See, he wasn't building a brokerage, he was building a cult and weaponizing the American dream for his own gain.
And this right here, this was the engine that powered the whole operation, the pump and dump. It's a brutally simple four-step process. First, Belfort and his inner circle would buy up huge amounts of some worthless stock for pennies. Then, they'd unleash their army of brokers to create this insane frenzy of fake hype. Third, once the price was artificially jacked up, they would dump all of their shares at the peak, making millions. And the final, devastating step? The investors, the very people they sold this dream to, were left holding completely worthless paper. The scheme worked way beyond his wildest dreams. Stratton Oakmont just exploded. And with all that money came a level of excess that became legendary. Belfort didn't just run a company. He created a full-blown cult of personality, and it was all centered on wealth and debauchery.
Let's just put a number on the sheer scale of this fraud. This is the amount of money Belfort was eventually ordered to pay back in restitution to the thousands of victims he and his firm created. $110 million. Just Keep that number in your head as we look at where the money actually went.
So where did that $110 million of stolen savings go? Well, it went here. To mansions, to sports cars, to a personal helicopter. He bought a 69-foot luxury yacht that he named after his wife, Naomi. The office itself became this carnival of excess. Strippers in the conference room, champagne literally flowing into fax machines. Top performers were treated like actual gods, while underperformers were humiliated and fired on the spot. It was a whole system fueled by greed, fear, and absolute loyalty to him.
But look, an operation this loud, this reckless, it can't stay hidden forever. The sheer arrogance of Stratton Oakmont, combined with Belfort's own spiraling personal life, started to attract the absolute wrong kind of attention. See, an empire built on pure momentum with no foundation, it only has one way to go, straight down.
As the money piled up, hiding it became a full-time job. Belfort set up this whole web of offshore shell companies and used cash couriers, including a housekeeper who smuggled envelopes of cash sewn into her clothing. He called it asset protection. The FBI, well, they had a much simpler, more accurate term for it: money laundering.
Inside the firm, and really inside Belfort's own head, things were just falling apart. Drug use went from being a party favor to a daily necessity just to function. His personal life was pure chaos. He crashed his Ferrari while high on Quaaludes with his 3-year-old daughter in the car. Then, against his captain's direct advice, he sailed his yacht straight into a massive storm, sinking it in the Mediterranean. He was unraveling just as fast as his company was.
And while Belfort was completely losing control, FBI agent Gregory Coleman was just quietly building his case. He wasn't dazzled by the flash, he just followed the money. He used wiretaps, he flipped informants inside Stratton, he subpoenaed every record he could find. And then Belfort made a fatal mistake. While he was already under investigation, he wired $2 million to a Swiss bank account. The FBI traced it, and that single transaction gave them everything they needed.
So in October of 1996, federal agents stormed the offices of Stratton Oakmont. They ripped phones from desks, seized hard drives, carted away filing cabinets. The nonstop party, the engine of fraud, it had finally come to a grinding halt. The party was over. Now this should be the end of the story, right? A criminal gets caught, he pays for his crimes, the end. But with Jordan Belfort, the arrest was just the beginning of his next, and maybe his most shocking, chapter.
Facing up to 30 years in prison, Belfort did what he always did. He made a deal. He sold, he cooperated with the FBI, he wore a wire, and he gave up his former employees. And the result? Over 30 of his followers were indicted, with some of them serving more prison time than he did. For orchestrating a massive, multi-million-dollar fraud, Jordan Belfort served just 22 months in a cushy, minimum security facility.
And this is where the story gets truly unbelievable. While he was in prison, he started writing. In 2007, his memoir was published. And it wasn't an apology, it was a victory lap. Then, in 2013, it was turned into a global blockbuster movie. The convicted felon was now a full-blown pop culture icon. And today, he's a motivational speaker, teaching the very same sales techniques that fueled his crimes to huge audiences all around the world. But what about the victims? What about that $110 million he was ordered to pay back? Well, the reality is that to this day, only a tiny fraction of that amount has ever actually been repaid. The teacher who lost her retirement, the veteran who lost his life savings, they never got their money back.
So here's the final twist in all of this. He didn't just escape real justice, he sold his story of injustice and got rich and famous all over again from it. Which leaves us with a pretty unsettling question, doesn't it? Why do we, as a society, applaud a story like this? Maybe it's because, as Belfort himself said, he was greedy, but so was everybody else. And maybe, deep down, we never really wanted to see him punished. Maybe we just wanted to be him.